Good afternoon and welcome to UATV. It's 2 p.m. here in Kyiv, Ukraine. My name is Antonina, Antosha, and this is what we have for you this hour. The black boxes from the Ukrainian passenger plane shot down in Iran will be decoded in Ukraine. This was reported by the French Civil Aviation Safety Investigation Authority. France will provide Ukraine with technical assistance, and French experts will participate in the decoding. The Boeing 737 of Ukraine International Airlines, which was flying to Kyiv, was shut down on January 8th, shortly after takeoff from Tehran. All 176 people on board were killed. Euromaidan, the Heavenly Hundred, the annexation of Crimea, and Russia's aggression in eastern Ukraine. These words and phrases have entered the lexicon of every Ukrainian over the past 5 years. They are also known beyond Ukraine's borders. Let's take a closer look into this dictionary of sorts in this story.
EU-Ukraine Association Agreement. On November 29, 2013, Viktor Yanukovych refused to sign Ukraine's association agreement with the European Union. This abrupt change in foreign policy led to protests across Ukraine. In the early hours of November 30th, security forces brutally dispersed around 400 protesters at Kyiv's Independence Square. 79 people were injured. Euromaidan, Maidan, Revolution of Dignity. The violent crackdown turned the pro-European rallies into anti-government ones. More and more people joined the protest, which later became known as the Revolution of Dignity. The Heavenly Hundred. This is how Ukrainians refer to 106 activists who were killed in the clashes during the Revolution of Dignity. Most people were shot between 18th and 20th of February at the Institutska Street. Today, the part of the street is known as the Alley of Heroes of the Heavenly Hundred. Russia's annexation of Crimea. On the 20th of February 2014, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of the Ukrainian peninsula. So-called Little Green Men, armed and without insignia, appeared in Crimea. In fact, they were regular Russian military personnel. On the night of February the 27th, Russian special forces seized the building of the Crimean parliament and government. In March, the occupational authorities held a sham referendum on whether Crimea should be part of Russia. The international community condemned the referendum and did not recognize its results. Russian aggression in eastern Ukraine. The next stage began when Russia and its proxies started military operations in the Donbass, violating the territorial integrity of Ukraine. On April 7, 2014, Russian-led forces seized administrative buildings in the Donetsk, Luhansk and Kharkiv regions. On April 14th, Alexander Turchinov, then acting president of Ukraine, announced the start of the anti-terrorist operation. It was the start of Russia's war in Ukraine, which is still ongoing. On the captured territories, pseudo-republics were created. They are controlled and financed by the Kremlin. As a result of Russian aggression, 44,000 square kilometers or 7% of Ukraine's territory were occupied. According to the UN, at least 13,000 people were killed as a result of this hybrid war. Reported by Olga Mikhaluk, UATV.
Today is the last day of English news at UATV. The Ukrainian government has decided to shut down international broadcasting and to close the Arabic, Crimean Tatar and English language departments. Over the past 3 years, English news service team here at UATV had a common aim of delivering real and truthful news about the situation in Ukraine. We would be happy to say to be continued, but instead, we bring you the final story this hour.
Dozens of Russian state media channels and propaganda outlets broadcast to the occupied territories in eastern Ukraine, as well as other parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. UATV was one of the few Ukrainian outlets available. It was watched both by soldiers and civilians.
These soldiers who watched us on the front line did not pay attention to the language of our broadcasting. Some of them even watched news in English. There are many soldiers fluent in English.
When the channel was launched on October 1st, 2015, it broadcasted in Ukrainian, Russian and English. Later, it was expanded and launched UATV Arabic and Crimean Tatar.
Hello, my name is Alexander Kiri. You're watching UATV News in English.
Украина в фокусе новостей на UATV. В студии Дарья Вершиленко. Здравствуйте.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Nashrat al-akhbar.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bu UATV.
Over the course of 4 years, UATV was connected to almost 400 cable networks and broadcast to nearly 30 countries in Europe, North America, Asia, Africa and the Middle East.
The concept of UATV is to convey information about what's really happening in Ukraine to the world, in particular Arabic-speaking countries, that it's not a civil conflict in Ukraine and not some disagreements between politicians, that it's a real aggression by Ukraine's neighbor.
One of the most exciting and newsworthy moments that I can remember is what happened in the Kerch Strait when the Russian Navy attacked and captured Ukrainian vessels and Ukrainian sailors. We were the first to get commentary from Ukrainian officials in English to the world.
UATV's war correspondents covered exclusive stories from the front line in eastern Ukraine. They reported about the lives of those who returned from the front line. Along with Ukrainian veterans, Anastasia Fedchenko conquered Hoverla, the country's highest mountain.
You can see the military that climbed the highest peak of Ukrainian Carpathians, which is 2,061 meters above the sea. Though they have prosthetic legs, I shared the truth with the world that Russia unfolded the war against us. The Russian aggressor invaded the territory of Ukraine.
British instructors I spoke to last year, they said actually they were learning from the Ukrainian soldiers. So it's not just them teaching the Ukrainians, it's also the other way around as well, and how this benefits both countries.
UATV's parliamentary correspondents covered firsthand the most important sessions.
За 279 рішення прийнято.
You can't even imagine what an honor it was for me to report in particular to our Russian audience about the voting of the Ukrainian parliament for the official military greeting. As the Russians call it, the Nazi slogan, "Glory to Ukraine." I had goosebumps when the MPs were voting for it.
Now the cadets of the National Academy of the Security Service of Ukraine are greeting the minister.
Commenting on these very parades became a real challenge for UATV English news presenter Olis Garjuk.
It was live. The parade was lasting for about 3 hours. So I was sitting in a dark room for 3 hours with my microphone being switched on the whole time. So I couldn't drink. I couldn't have a sip of water. I couldn't breathe loudly. I couldn't cough, but I wanted to.
This was not the only challenge Olis recalls. Last year, at the Ukraine Reform Conference in Canada, he and his colleague Antonina Antosha conducted over 30 interviews in just 2 days. In other news, anchor Carrie Oderman had a chance to interview the US Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland.
The three amigos are Secretary Perry, again Ambassador Volker, and myself. And we've been tasked with sort of overseeing the Ukraine-US relationship.
Eventually, this talk was quoted by CNN, The Washington Post, and The New York Times.
The question I asked seemed like a pretty innocent question. What brings you to Ukraine? It was his answer and his choice to share with us that President Trump had given him the mandate to be a special envoy of sorts here in Ukraine that then became very, very relevant in the depositions leading up to the impeachment.
UATV stops updating news on January 13th. Instead, the Ukrainian government decided to launch a new TV channel for the occupied territories.
I clearly understand that I do not want to say goodbye to our audience. I only say see you soon, because I am sure that each of the viewers appreciates what we are doing.
Without UATV and without English language content about Ukraine going out into the world from Ukraine, you could potentially have aggressive narratives from aggressive countries being put out about Ukraine to the world. And that's what I don't want. That's what I don't want to happen.
So from the whole team at UATV, thanks for watching.
This has been the latest piece of news that I, Antonina Antosha, had a privilege of delivering to you as a team of an extremely important project called UATV. These past 3 years have been my personal honor and my personal pleasure, having the opportunity to tell the truth to the rest of the world about the real situation in Ukraine. I thank each and every viewer of our audience for giving me a chance to tell you how beautiful, wonderful, remarkably talented, and outstandingly picturesque my home country is. Stay aware. Stay interested. Do not stand aside. Stay tuned. My name is Antonina Antosha. Take care.